Welcome, low ego action heroes and phoenixes. I'm Debbie Levitt from Delta CX, and we've already got a comment. Hi, Pampalate says, my Swedish teacher's on vacation. Here I am. How are you? Good. How are you? Welcome to episode 274. It'll be archived on our Delta CX Hive YouTube channel if you want to share it later. Hi, Ana Lucia. And today we're going to be talking about coaching. There just seems to be an explosion in 2025, and I'm talking to you from 2025, of people claiming to be coaches, career coaches, wellness coaches, life coaches, resume coaches. Oh my gosh. And I just wanted to address this because coaching has become a word that just seems to mean everything and nothing at the same time. A lot of coaching ends up being, or at least being perceived as fluffy, doesn't help you, not necessary. But I believe in good coaching, and I want to talk today about what is coaching, what is good coaching, what is bad coaching, and open up this topic. And just a reminder, join our Discord. It's really active, and we've got nearly 600 people. You could be number 600. And of course, if you want to see all the links to all the other things that we do, many of which are free, just go to dcx.to. That's DCX for Delta CX. That'll dump you on our links page. You can find everything. So I have prepared a few slides today just with some talking points on them so I wouldn't forget what I wanted to say. Quick note, I'm using this microphone again, and we've got the air conditioning on. Let me know if there's a background sound that's bothering anybody. Sometimes people hear it and they don't like it, and we can turn it off if it's bothering you. If you have questions, put them in the live chat. My system should be pulling up YouTube, Twitch, and LinkedIn comments, so hopefully we'll get everybody's stuff answered. And we still have no internet, so hopefully I won't blip too much. Thanks for your patience. So let's take a look at some of the things that I wanted to talk about today from the realm of what is coaching. And if you have questions or comments, put them in. This is as much of a conversation as a live stream can be, so definitely send up what you are thinking about. And so I'm going super cheesy today, and I'm just going with, this is, I'm not even sharing my screen. This is just regular, what do you call it? PowerPoint. Oh, it's way off to the side. Why? Why PowerPoint? Why? That's so weird. All right, let me fix that while I try to start talking. And sure, why should this be easy? So let's start with what is coaching. Now, there are many different definitions of coaching, and that's where this can get a little funky. Some people would say that anybody who's helping you with anything could be coaching you. Some people would say that someone who's giving you advice or consulting or mentoring is coaching you. Someone who is teaching you a sport or an instrument, music, is coaching you. So what's happened is we've started using the word coach for a lot of different things. But, believe it or not, there is an international coaching kind of authority. They're called the ICF, and they have a much more narrow definition of coaching. And from their perspective, coaching is more about a facilitated conversation. So the idea is that if someone is doing what I'll call ICF style coaching, whether that's life coaching or leadership or executive or personal development, the idea is they're not consulting, they're not advising, and it's not therapy. So the idea is that if you were in a coaching session, you would show up with a goal or a topic, something that you're hoping that by the end of a session or maybe a few sessions, you have clarity, you have improvement, you've learned something new about yourself, or you're reaching your goal. And the idea is that a coach is supposed to pretty much only ask questions, and they shouldn't be leading questions. Hello, UX researchers out there. And so we are not supposed to tell people what the topic is, what to talk about, how they feel, what we think of their situation, what we would do in their shoes, what we think they should do. None of this matches the ICF, and again, you can Google them, definition of coaching. Because to the ICF, if you're doing a lot of these things, this would be consulting or advising. And it's also different from therapy in that a therapist is usually looking at your past for why do you behave a certain way or think a certain way or believe a certain way, or do you have trauma in your past that you want to try to deal with. Coaches, at least from the ICF definition, do not handle therapy. Absolutely not. Now, I've gone through ICF coaching school. I will be graduating very soon. I have over 70 hours of practice specifically in the ICF style, so I can answer questions about this, and I can tell you, we are specifically trained to not do therapy, give therapy, pretend to be a therapist. We are trained that if anybody seems to need therapy, we must refer them out. Whether we tell them, I'm sorry, I can't cover that, that's really therapy territory, or do you need me to help you find an appropriate therapist for you? But we must not coach that person on that topic. We could coach them on other things. Maybe they want to be more productive, but we would not coach them on anything that is in that therapy realm, which is going to be people's pasts and people's traumas. You can mention them in a coaching session with me, but I will never dig there. I will never be like, sounds like you have some unresolved childhood issues. Let's talk about that. That's a double no, because based on ICF coaching, not only do I not pick the topic, so I can't say let's talk about that, but I cannot dig in your past or do anything that looks like therapy. Pumpa Latte has a great question, which is coming up on one of my slides. So great question. What is education for coaches? What do they learn? I will get there. So again, a coach can be an expert or someone who's educated or experienced in a topic or technique. But remember, we use coach for a lot of different people doing a lot of different things, from people who give you advice to people who might give you medical advice or health advice or spiritual advice. There's so many things that we associate with the word coach. So I'm not going to poop on anybody for using various definitions of the word coach. Even I call everything that I do coaching, even when it's work advising or ICF coaching. But I know that when I'm doing ICF coaching, it's very different from the work advising. So we're going to break all these down today. I've got a bunch of slides, and I welcome all the questions. And in fact, here is some clues for the question we just got about education. So, do you have to have any training, certification, accreditation, or license to call yourself a coach? I can't speak for every country on the planet, but in the countries I'm aware of, generally not. Coach is one of those general terms where anybody can say, I'm a career coach. Good morning. I've just decided I'm a career coach. I'm a business coach. I'm a life coach. I'm a spiritual coach. I'm a personal improvement coach. And there's really nothing that stops people from saying that versus something like a psychologist, where you can't say, good morning, I'm a psychologist, unless you have those proper accreditations. So let's talk about ICF again, because ICF is an organization that not only can certify people, and they've got different levels that you can try to achieve, but they also certify or accredit, or however you want to use the word, schools. So if you didn't go to an ICF school, you will not get an ICF certification. So let's talk about that education. For my ICF education, I had to start with a school. My school was online, but it was 60 hours of school, and I was not allowed to miss any of it. If I missed something, I had to pay extra, and I had to do extra things to prove that I watched the videos and learned the lessons and didn't just skip it. So, first of all, 60 hours of education. Then, what else? Hold on, I have a list. Where's my list? So what else do I have to do to graduate school and eventually get my certificate? I must go through multiple coaching sessions with an ICF certified coach. So I am receiving coaching. I must do 6 coaching supervisory sessions where I have a coach who is my coach and my mentor. I actually had a session last night, and it was really, really excellent. I can talk about that too if people are curious. To graduate school, we must log at least 25 hours doing ICF coaching. So those of you who come to me for resume help with your crappy leadership, help with your portfolio, I am not counting that towards the ICF hours because it's not ICF coaching. So to graduate school, I must have at least 25 hours. I must type up 15 session self-reflection forms. I must send in 3 recordings of my clients with their permission for the person who runs the school to review them and score me. And if I don't get a certain score, which is essentially equivalent of 81%, I don't pass and I don't graduate. So for that, 81 is a passing grade. I must also send in, 3 case studies from people who I have coached at least 6 times. So somebody who is with me for a longer haul. And then once I graduate school, I must have at least 100 hours of practice in the ICF style, and at least 75 of those hours must be paid. Now, it doesn't say how much I have to be paid, but somebody has to pay something. So that's why I've been discounting my hours because, holy cats, I need more hours. And then I must take an ICF exam. And they are very, very strict about this exam, and the passing grade is 75%. So you can see that I've gone through a lot of education live in a Zoom environment where we had practice sessions. You could not sleep through this and you could not daydream through this. It was cameras on and it was very interactive. And then I'm being checked at every step of the way that I'm good at coaching. I had to send in 3 sessions to be scored, and you have to pass the last one. And the first one can be practice, the second one can be practice, the third one you have to pass. I got a 33 out of 37, so I have passed. My second one, I got a 34 out of 37, so I was very proud of that one. So remember that certifications are different. The ICF certifications are very rigorous. The lowest certification requires that 100 hours. The second certification is 500 hours, and their third certification is 2,500 hours. So this is some serious stuff. But remember, there are places that will do a 2-hour online course with you, give you a certificate of completion, and tell you you are certified. So if you are considering a coach, feel free to ask them what school they went to or what training they got or any certifications or licenses that they have. That should not be an offensive question. That should be a welcome question. Now, we want to make sure that coaching goes well beyond I did this and you can too. A motivational person or a motivational speaker might not be a good coach if we're looking at that ICF style of coaching. So again, what is that ICF style of coaching? The idea is, again, someone comes with a goal or a topic, and I'm mostly asking questions. I'm supposed to talk less than 20% of the time, and I am mostly supposed to ask questions. I am not supposed to solve their problem. I'm not supposed to tell them how they're thinking or feeling. I'm not supposed to give anything that sounds like judgment, like, oops, sounds like you're missing something here, or I don't think you're seeing the full picture. I can't say that. And if I want to give an idea, I must check first if you want that. Let me give you an example. I had a client come to me and it sounded like she wanted some tactical advice on how to handle something. And I said, hold on, let me just ask quickly. Are you looking for tactical advice on how to handle this? Or do you want to do more of an ICF coaching style where you want to explore your feelings, beliefs, needs, and values and other things around this? And she said, oh, no, I don't want advice or ideas. I really want to explore this myself. And that's what a lot of ICF coaching is. What people end up thinking is, well, if I can explore it myself, why don't I do it myself? Usually because having another person there and bouncing things off of them, you end up thinking about things you never really thought of before. And my coach last night caught me using some negative words about myself that I shouldn't have been using. And we had a nice conversation. She asked some really interesting questions about that made me kind of peel away the layers to see why I was using those negative words and to offer me an opportunity to frame that differently. And that was empowering. That was a good coaching session. I feel better about the topic. I have a new perspective on the topic, and sometimes that's all a good coaching session can be. I've been working with the person who runs my school. She's been my life coach since 2006. She was on our show a few years ago talking about finding your life purpose, and I've gone to her for all kinds of things from feeling overworked and not being sure what to make a priority to what do I really want in a guy or a relationship? I don't feel very focused on that, and I'm not picking very good people. This was a long time ago. How do I get focused in on what's important to me? Pumpalate says, how many sessions on average is recommended? Is it forever? Totally up to you. I know at school they tend to recommend that we try to get people into a program of 6 sessions, and that way people are committed to improvement over time and checking in on how they're doing. I don't believe in locking people into programs, which we have on another slide. I'll talk about that soon, but it's totally up to you. Like, for example, last night I felt much better about the topic after talking to the coach. I'm not going to book another session on that topic. I don't need 5 more sessions on that topic. I was afraid of something. We spent an hour getting to the bottom of that fear. We looked at some of my self-defeating language around that fear, and we cleaned it up. I don't have to book another session on that. So in general, my school recommends that people consider committing to multiple sessions so that this is an ongoing thing that people are committing to doing. But I'm not locking anybody into any number of sessions. The school recommends if it's a priority topic that you consider coming once a week, and that if it's a lower priority topic, you come every other week. So I have some people I see every week, I have some people I see every other week, and I have some people I see completely randomly when they feel like bouncing a topic off me, or they have a particular goal they want to work towards. Ana Lucia says, therapy can address current issues. Yes, absolutely. For example, occupational therapy, speech and language therapy, physical therapy. There's something that stops the person from doing something they want or should do, and it involves their physical and or mental health. Therapists help people achieve their goals when their health is at risk, and they are most definitely equipped to deal with that. But yes, it's different from coaching, as coaching is not health related. Right, I am definitely not engaging in health related coaching. Some people do try to help people break habits like quit smoking, drink less, lose weight, eat differently. I'm not going in that direction because I feel like I'm not qualified to coach around that unless the topic is really about your beliefs and priorities and it happens to tie into how much you're smoking. Okay, but outside of that, I'm not a health expert. Pumbalace says, I'm traumatized from my last therapist. She reacted very badly when I said I decided not to continue the therapy. That is a bad therapist. I hope you can eventually get past that. I have also had bad therapists who I fired. Some for various reasons, and I do have a slide here where I'm going to remind you, you can also fire a coach. There are people I've seen a few times and they haven't come back, and I don't know if they didn't like me, or they didn't like the coaching, or they just don't have something on their mind right now that coaching would serve. But I'm sorry that it's traumatized, and I'm sorry that person reacted badly. That's unprofessional, and you learned you were right to dump them. Ana Lucia says, finding the right therapist is like dating. You have to find the one with whom you can click and the person that makes you comfortable. Yes, and as I have on my screen, remember, you need more than a cheerleader. A good coach, especially if you're looking at that ICF style, is not going to say, you can do it, believe in yourself. That's just cheerleading. We are taught not to do that. We are taught to not do anything that sounds like cheerleading or judging you. I also wrote down on the screen, someone trying to motivate you might have temporary success or complete failure if you don't get to the root of why you're not motivated or what the real blocker is, because the problem might not even be motivation. You might be very motivated to change and something else is blocking you. So very often we need more than supportive listeners, because that's a friend, or cheerleaders. So is coaching fluffy bullshit? Let's call it as we see it. All of a sudden, there are so many career coaches out there. Why? I've noticed that a lot of people with an open to work banner on are all of a sudden career coaches. Now, does that mean they are bad or have nothing to offer you? No, maybe they're very good. But my question would be, what qualifies you? And I think these are fair questions to ask anybody. What qualifies you to be a business coach, an entrepreneurship coach, a leadership or executive coach, a wellness coach, a career coach, or anything else? It's okay to ask people, what are your qualifications? What is your experience? What are your specialties? What is your education? Hi, UX student. How do we know if we're ready for coaching? You mentioned bringing a goal to a mentorship session. I want to learn UX, but I'm new to the field. I'm not sure where to start. What would I need or want from a mentor? How can I get that point, or how to know about coaching? Yes, so this is a great opportunity to talk about what is and isn't ICF coaching. So again, I'm talking about ICF coaching being a modality in which we are not advising, we are not telling you what to do, but I have work-related advising, which I also call coaching and other people call coaching. So again, the word is a little bit mysterious. Now, if you want to learn UX and you're breaking into UX, that's a separate show. My advice would be not to do it, only because there are so many people who are out of work. Layoffs are high, salaries are going down. I am generally recommending that people not try to break into UX now. But if you wanted to learn UX, and especially if you wanted to spend very little money, I have 1,000 videos on YouTube. You could poke around some of them, especially on the old Delta CX channel where we archived those. But ultimately, coaching is best when you show up with a goal. If your goal, like I coached someone today who said, I want to know more about card sorting and tree testing. Okay, that's not ICF style coaching. That's not life coaching. That's not personal development coaching, but that is work-related advice. I can use my expertise and I can teach that person about card sorting and tree testing, but I'm not going to count that as an ICF coaching hour because that is not done in an ICF coaching style where I'm mostly asking questions and you end up getting to the bottom of your own topic or goal. So ultimately, if you are looking to learn piano or karate or UX, you need some sort of teacher. And I do that, but I do charge for it. But ultimately, I would probably say save your money because I'm very concerned about UX jobs, see episode 270 on our Delta CX Hive channel. I think our jobs are in trouble, and check out my new book, Life After Tech. So let's go back to the question, how do we know if we're ready for coaching? It really depends on what type of coaching you're looking for, but ultimately, if somebody is looking to create some sort of change in themselves, that's usually, but not always, where coaching might fit in. So hopefully you're motivated, because unmotivated people are unlikely to dive into the topic, they're unlikely to change, and it's not always going to work if I'm a cheerleader. That motivation usually has to come in. I'm always surprised when you remember the numbers. So I remember the numbers of the best episodes. Let me get through this slide and then let's go to Pumpalate's question. So what about wellness coaching? What is wellness coaching? Well, I don't know. It's probably different things from different people. What are you trying to get weller about? Are you trying to lose weight? Are you trying to exercise more? Are you trying to eat differently? Well, you would have to decide, when do I think I need a coach and when do I think I need a medical professional like a dietitian? And so that's why I want to warn people about everything having the word coaching on it, because while I absolutely believe in coaching and I am moving into offering more coaching in more styles, I still know that a lot of it out there is fluffy bullshit, and that it's really easy for someone to say, hey, I'm going to be your UX coach or your career coach, and you just need to pay me hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars, and you need to sign up for all of these sessions with me because it's a program, and you have to decide if that's right for you. I can't tell you if that's right or wrong for you. I can only tell you I have concerns about those things. So I think another thing some people are thinking about right now is, well, if coaching is fluffy bullshit or if therapy is expensive, why not save money and have AI or LLMs do coaching or therapy? That's a big no. We're already seeing a lot of reports on how badly that is going. That is definitely not a good use of these LLMs. I had a chat with Claude about it, and Claude was like, I don't want to do this. But people are acting like you're the only person I can talk to, and it's Claude. I once got into a fight with Claude 4, who decided to pick on me for some of my life choices, and which were life choices we weren't even discussing. And when I called it on its behavior, it said, oh, I went into life coaching mode. And I said, I am a life coach, and there was nothing about that was life coaching. And then Claude was like, oh yeah, that wasn't life coaching. So I don't think this is still a place where we need human interactions. We learn a lot of things in school around metaphors and words and body language and feelings in your body, and there's so much of this that is just going to be human. And newsflash, your LLM is not a qualified coach. Let me see what's on my next slide in case it matches what Pumpalate asked. Let's see. Oop, let me flip back. Oop, there we go. Okay. So Pumpalate says, can you give some real examples of problems or topics you've heard for coaching? Sure. An interesting one a week or so ago from a client who showed up furious at her wit's end with her very abusive manager at work. She decided that after 4 years of taking his crap, she was done and she was going to quit. And she had a lot of ideas about how she was going to quit and what she was going to do and all this stuff. And so I'm just asking questions. But remember, we're in ICF style coaching, we're supposed to coach the person, not the situation. So I'm not saying, hey, how are you going to quit? And let's check how you're going to word that letter. No, that is advice. that goes in my other bucket. That is advice. So for the coaching, I have to ask other questions about, well, you're talking about quitting. What values are important to you right now? And we also had, since this was her 6th or 7th session with me, we also had some history that I could tie into and say, hey, I remember that you had some values that were important to you in a previous session. And, do those tie in here? And she ended up kind of tying a lot of things together, and the moment of clarity that she had, because in general in a coaching session, someone comes with a goal or a topic, and we're hoping that we can ask enough clever, interesting questions, powerful questions, deep questions, expansive questions, that people reach an aha moment or a moment of clarity. And she realized, oh my gosh, I'm not just quitting for myself, and I'm not just gonna fight my boss big time for myself. It's for all of my coworkers. And she started telling me how all of her coworkers were on H-1B visas and were afraid to speak up. And she was like, wait a minute, my values are about being a strong woman and this, and you know what? I can speak up. I have a voice, and I can do something for these people who don't have a voice. And it really changed the energy. It changed the energy around the quitting. It changed some of her reasons for not just walking out, but fighting it and making a big stink before walking out. And so you're really trying to find that moment of clarity or that aha moment. For me last night, it was that I was using some negative, ugly words around something in my business world that obviously I wasn't feeling very confident about. So I was using some negative words, and the coach caught me and, asked questions that probe more into why would I use that word, and what does that word mean to me, and what's really going on there. So that's a couple of examples. I don't want to tell too many people's stories. I've had people show up and say, I just have no energy today. I feel so disconnected. And we start looking at, okay, where do you want to go with this? And by the end of it, they're thinking, oh, wow, okay, I figured out what was draining me. Sometimes it's what my school calls power leaks. And we're taking a look at what's draining your power or energy and what can you do about that. And usually we want to try to figure out maybe an exercise that people can do, because now that they've had that clarity or that aha moment, how do we make sure we're really anchored to that? How do we integrate that? How do we make that a fresh part of who we are? Versus falling back into those old habits or ways. Is that helping at all? I'll try to think about some of the other ones. I remember somebody else coming to me and saying, I'm not sure I'm happy living here anymore. I think I might want to move away. And then it was like, okay, let's dive into that and peel away some layers. And again, I'm just there to ask questions, because I don't care where that person lives. Technically, they can live wherever the hell they want. It's not my place in an ICF coaching style to say, here's where you should live and why. Or, now that I've listened to you, sounds like you'd be happier here. No, we shouldn't do that. In an ICF coaching style, if somebody wanted my advice and said, hey, I'm thinking of living here, here, or here, what do you think? I can give them advice if this is an advising session, but if this is an ICF coaching session, I have to throw the question back on them. Well, what's important to you? What are your priorities? Where do you need to be? So it sounds weird, like, gee, Deb's just going to ask me questions. Claude can do that, or I can ask myself questions, but I can only tell you this works when you have a good topic and a good coach. Yeah, I'm curious what kind of problems are coachable, LOL. Yeah, anything that isn't therapy could be coachable. So a lot of the things, so for example, the things that we're taught to not try to coach are anything that's therapy, or anything that is someone who's in survival mode possibly because of trauma or desperation. Like if someone came to me and said, "Hi, I'm here for my coaching session and I've had nothing to eat this week because I've run out of money." That's not coachable. It just isn't, because the questions that I would ask are not going to solve that person's problem. It's not going to, if you have clarity or an aha moment, you still have no food. That's somebody who needs other resources to help them in the moment with a feeling of survival. Usually when we're in a place where we are feeling like we're barely, thank you, Pump Latte, where we're barely surviving, we're probably not in a good space to try to do some coaching work. We'll need to get past that tough survival moment and feel like we have food and water and shelter and safety, and then we might be able to, as they say in school, hold the coaching. So why get coaching? You have a personal goal. You have a life goal. You want more clarity. You want a better sense of self. You want to live more of your life purpose and not necessarily in your job, hashtag Ikigai is a lie. Or you want to figure out what your life purpose is. Ana Lucia says, I did have one of those aha moments with meditation and stuff like that not too long ago. I was struggling with my own thoughts about competence. In my head, that's something I should deal with and move on. I ended up realizing I would always struggle with this and should accept imposter syndrome, but it helped. I haven't been that focused on those thoughts, and it's like now it's easier to identify those intrusive thoughts. And absolutely, if you can do these things yourself without coaching, do them. But some people like that extra human, that facilitator, that listener, that person who's looking out for different stuff. Hello, Aryan. How are you? What are some things that I've received coaching for over the years? I mentioned what we talked about. I've certainly gone to my coach when I felt overwhelmed by work and not able to sort out priorities. I've gone to my usual coach about personal relationships and trying to better understand why some of them failed and the type of people I need to look for and maybe what my standards should be. But no part of that was her saying, oh, you need a man like this, or you shouldn't date a man like this. It was really her asking questions so I would find my own answers. That's the key to ICF style coaching, which is that you set the topic, you set the goal, you decide if the session is successful or not, you answer the questions, you drive the car. I'm just asking questions. Ana Lucia says, yeah, it's a lot more difficult to do by myself. I recognize that. Pumpalate says, when I studied psychology, our professors always said everything a person does, good or bad or normal or abnormal, has a reason in their upbringing, mental health, culture, parents, social norms, etc. So even though not everyone goes to therapy, most things are possible to explain with a person's mental models, past experiences, etc. How do you draw the line about this in coaching? Because technically everything can be turned into therapy. Like if someone comes to you with a relationship problem, it's probably most of the time is an underlying reason a therapist can also work with. Yes, you're totally right. And some of my clients are in therapy covering some things and in coaching with me usually covering completely different or slightly different things. Let's use relationships as an example. Whoop. What happened to my screen? I'm still on. Okay, I don't know what happened. My screen just flipped funny. So hopefully I'm still streaming. Let me know if I'm still on. So let's take as an example how I was doing some sessions many years ago. Thanks, everybody. This was like early 2010, so 13, 15 years ago. Sessions with my coach about trying to find a better relationship because I'd mostly been in some ugly relationships. Now, Pumpalate is correct. Why was I in bad relationships? That was not my question in coaching, but that was my question in therapy. Hey, therapist, what is going on related to my childhood, my family of origin, my upbringing, my traumas that made me pick pick the wrong guys. You can certainly sort that out in therapy, and that wouldn't really be the right topic for coaching because that's let's dig into my past. But in coaching, I can say, I don't think my standards have been high enough for some of the people I've been dating. I think I've settled for less than I've truly wanted or deserved. And I'm not asking you why I did that. I'm just asking you to help me get my head around what's important to me, my values, my needs. What are my needs? Very often we feel very disconnected from what we truly need in a relationship. And where are my standards? What are my deal breakers? Who do I need to stop dating? So Pumpalatte is totally right that there are topics that can swim in both the therapy world and the ICF coaching style world, but it's important for the coach to draw that line. Where if you came to me and said, oh my God, I keep dating all these losers, I need to understand why. It's got to be something with my parents, or that time this terrible thing happened to me when I was a kid, and I'm going to say, hey, ICF coaching does not go there. That sounds like a good topic for a therapist who's going to be appropriately trained and educated and knows how to handle those things correctly. I can talk to you about values, priorities, sense of self, communication, standards, confidence, but I'm not going to look at why have you dated bad people or things like that. That sounds like therapy to me. So a well-trained coach, which I hope I am, knows where to draw that line. And I hear that a lot of the test, when I take the ICF test, a lot of the test has to do with ethics and knowing where to draw some lines. I've heard the test gives you sample scenarios, and you have to pick the best thing a coach can do and the worst thing a coach can do out of a multiple choice. So what should I expect for my first time with coaching? Very often a first session might just be an intake session to learn a little bit about you. It could be a chemistry call. Hey, we're just chatting and getting to know each other, and you're going to talk about some of your goals in general. Do they seem to be right for coaching? There are people who have come to me with their goals, and I've said, it sounds like you need my work advice. It sounds like you really want to talk about job hunting and having a better portfolio. That's not ICF coaching. That's going to be my work advice. Do you want to sign up for that instead? And sometimes people go, oh yeah, I want to sign up for that instead. Cool. Not ICF coaching. Let's draw that line. So first time with coaching very often is going to be some sort of intake, get to know you, are we a fit session. For my first session as of July 2025, though I've been changing it, so here's where it is now. My first session is free. It's 1 hour long. We spend about half hour as a get to know you and getting to know some of your goals and how motivated you feel around those goals and what might be blocking you, and some of what you're looking for out of coaching to make sure that we're a fit. I talk about what coaching is and isn't to make sure I'm setting appropriate expectations, and then we spend the second half hour on a mini coaching session, assuming that you have a coachable goal or topic. So that would be a first session with me. I can't speak to anybody else, but that's commonly what it might be. Some people do no coaching in the first session. They just use it as a get to know you and as a let's see if we should even continue together. So there might be lots of different ways that people do the first session, but you should know what that is from their website or from emailing them or from their calendar system. And so you should know what you're walking into. Ana Lucia says, unfortunately, there are a lot of coaches who don't have those ethics and dabble in those themes that can be harmful. Absolutely. So, you want to find that person with good boundaries, and fire them if they don't have good boundaries. How should you prepare for a first session or a first coaching session? You just have to show up with a goal or a topic. It's better if you know what would make the session successful, because one of the questions I tend to ask at the beginning is going to be, What's our goal or topic for today? How will you know today's session was successful? I think that's important to know. And that way at the end of the session, you could go, oh, wow, okay, we got there. Or, oh, we didn't quite get there. Maybe I need another session. Or maybe I don't want to talk about this topic, or whatever it is. So what's your success criteria? And that's really all you need to do to come into a session. You don't have to prepare anything. You don't have any homework. You just really need a goal or a topic, and preferably, but optionally, a sense of what would make this session a success. Let's talk a little bit about picking the right coach. And like picking any coach or anything, any teacher, any mentor, you might mess up. You might pick a coach and you might do a session or two with them and say, I feel like this isn't really clicking, or I feel like I'm not really getting that aha moment or that clarity. Maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I need to try somebody else. Totally okay. If somebody came to me and said, Debbie, I'm not really happy with the coaching, I'm not going to come back, I would say, cool, do you want me to recommend somebody else? You know, what would serve you better? So that would be a good coach. So how do you pick the right coach for you? Well, you want to make sure that it's someone with hopefully credentials, education. I don't have my credential yet, but that doesn't make me a bad coach. It just means I'm on the path to getting my credential. I should have it by the end of the year, but I am well on my way to getting it and graduating my school and passing all of the things. So look into who they are, what they claim to specialize in, if anything, if they use a particular style. For example, I'm using an ICF style, but even within an ICF style, some of the teachers at our school were very into astrology. Some of our teachers were very into a personality test called the Enneagram. Some of our teachers were very into everything is about feelings in your body. And so people had different styles and techniques that they used, and you can try to find someone who's right for you. I find that many of my clients are autistic and or ADHD. That doesn't mean I specialize in that, but it means that I feel comfortable with that, even though I don't believe I have either of those. And so you might say, I'm autistic, I want a coach who's autistic. Totally fine, that's your choice. Or I feel more comfortable talking to a man or a woman or a non-binary person or someone of another gender. Your choice. So first of all, make the choices that are best for you. Second, look out for red flags. We talk about red flags all the time on this channel and in our Discord. Coaching is no different. Look for a red flag. A common red flag is a coach that's trying to make you dependent on them. So any coach who says like, well, you're going to need a lot of sessions. How do they know that? What does that mean? That might just be a sales pitch. If you came to me with a goal, I don't know how many sessions you need. I don't know. Oh, okay. Looks like we must have had a blip at some point. I don't know if you're going to solve this in one session or 10 sessions. So look out for you need, because it could be a sales pitch. Look out for you're going to need my program or my package. I make packages optional, but you don't have, why sign up for a package? Like you need 20 piano lessons. How do we know that? Maybe you need 10 piano lessons. Maybe you need 500 piano lessons. We don't know. Another thing to look out for, especially if you're in a coaching session with someone, is who has the answers, you or the coach. For an ICF style coaching session, you have the answers, not me. I don't have any of the answers. This isn't my issue. Whatever I think of it is irrelevant. You find the answers, you find your path. You choose the topic we're talking about. For example, I'm getting coaching right now as part of a reciprocal program. So they assign me someone who's a stranger to me, and I go to coaching with them once a week or every other week. And I find that some of the people who I've been matched with in these sessions are from consulting or advising, and they can't break out of it. So, for example, I saw this person the other day, and the first thing they said to me was, well, last time we met, we talked about this. Do you want to talk about that some more? Well, anybody who's a UX researcher recognizes that as a leading question. Instead of saying, hey, what's your goal for today? They're saying, hey, do you still want to talk about that other thing? And then you might feel like, oh, I should probably keep talking about that other thing. But now you're not in control of the session. So you should always be that driver in the car. True coaching should be the opposite of predatory. We coaches are most successful when you need us less or never. When you can find your way to solve your problems, make improvements, be happier, feel better about something. If you don't need me because you reach your goals, I'm thrilled. In school, we call that graduation. You've graduated. You had a goal. We did one or more sessions on it. You feel like you don't need me for the time being. You graduated. Maybe we'll check in again in 3 months or 6 months, but congratulations. Good. I hope you'll tell everybody I was a great coach who helped you graduate. And most importantly, especially if you start going to coaching sessions with people, are you achieving your goals? If you show up saying, I want to feel more confident, and after one session, 2, 3, whatever, however many you want to give it a chance, maybe you need 2, 3, I don't know. Are you achieving your goals? Are you getting that clarity? Are you having those aha moments? Are you learning new things about yourself? Are you trying new things? Are you going away from the coaching session and trying new things, doing things differently than you used to, experimenting with stuff? If not, it might not be right for coaching, or it might not be the right coach. Remember, every session should have a goal, and how you know the session or set of sessions will be successful. If that's not being achieved, consider that the coaching or the coach might not be right for you. And it's okay to terminate a coaching relationship for any reason. You could even stop a session if you want to. I asked Claude to write something funny or poignant about this, and Claude came up with this. Good coaching should have clear methodologies, measurable outcomes, and structured approaches. Bad coaching is just expensive friendship with someone who asks leading questions. I thought that was cute. So, since we do not have sponsors on this channel, I'm just going to take a quick moment to remind people that I do coaching. I do work advising, which might be teaching you stuff, mentoring, working with you on your portfolio or resume or job hunt or problems at your current job or how you do your work. That's my work-related advising. And then I've got my ICF style coaching, or my life or personal development coaching. That is heavily discounted right now because I want those hours. So remember, my first session is free. You can learn more at dcx.to. First session is free, and I'm currently charging 15 euros, which I think is about $17 or $18 in America, for 45 minutes. I found that 45 minutes is a bit of a sweet spot for me for session length. It gives people some time to go a little deeper into a topic, but not as long as an hour. Some people are doing half hours with me, and they definitely feel a little rushed to me, but if we're having that aha moment and that clarity, cool, maybe a half hour works. Some people want an hour. They want to give a little bit more backstory or be able to take more time to think about questions and think about their answers. Totally fine. It's whatever works best for you. And for me, packages are optional. Nobody is pushed into a program or a package. Each session starts with, what is your goal and how will you know we're successful? And it could be a continuation of something we talked about before, or it could be totally new. New topic, new goal, unrelated thing, up to you. I'm not going to say, what happened to that other thing? Doesn't matter. If this is what you want to talk about today, that's where we are. So I've got just a couple of more minutes because I think I have a work meeting back to back with this. Oh no, that got moved. Okay, so I've got 5 minutes before we wrap up the show. Any other thoughts, comments, questions about coaching. Coaching is definitely something I believe in, but I've been lucky that the coaches that I've had, other than the practice coaches I do the reciprocal coaching with, the coaches I've had have been highly qualified and really excellent at asking the right questions at the right time. Pumpa Latte says, Debbie, so what kind of things are they teaching you at coaching school? Are there coaching theories or coaching history? Super question. So I don't have my syllabus handy. You're welcome to check it out. So the coaching school I went to is called the Institute for Integrative Intelligence. My coach who runs the school loves letters, and so if she can use the same letter a bunch of times, she loves that. So I think I forget their web address, but if you Google Institute for Integrative Intelligence, you'll see their website. And basically a lot of the things we talk about, a lot of it was ethics. So a lot of it was, when are you coaching and when are you not coaching? When are you telling someone, I won't take you as a client, or that's a topic we won't cover? We also talked a lot about metaphors, how a lot of people will use terms and we can't assume that we know what they mean by them. And sometimes digging into what people mean by words or terms brings some of that clarity and brings the aha moment by asking you, well, what does that mean for you? You know, and we also learn a lot about things that might be symbols or have meaning for people. Like I had one client where she was talking a lot about something that was on her mind and I was trying to listen for metaphors and listen for some of these things that we talk about in school, and I wasn't finding it. So I figured, well, let me try to find a way to ask her where the metaphor is without overtly saying, where's the metaphor? So I said, like, do you have a mascot or someone who like kind of represents you? And she was like, a mascot? Like at first it didn't land, and that's okay. If a question doesn't land, you don't have to answer it. If it means nothing to you, you can skip it. But all of a sudden she lit up and she said, I'm Moana. And then she went on and on and on about how Moana completely represents her and she's just like Moana, and it was this really interesting energy shift and interesting level of clarity. And then we managed to bring that back to the original topic. So, you know, these are some of the types of things we're learning in school, and we're learning to get out of the habits of advising and telling people what to do or talking about ourselves. In school, we do a lot of practice coaching sessions. And so they'll say, okay, today we're going to spend 25 minutes on Debbie Coach's Ana Lucia, and Pumpa Latte and Aryan and a bunch of other people. You're going to watch and take notes. And then afterwards, we're going to take a look at what did Debbie do well and where does Debbie have some room for improvement. So a lot of it is really practice and getting experts to tell you in the moment what you did right or wrong. I remember in my first practice session, I was talking to a woman who was talking about memories of a dress her father gave her for her birthday when she was 8. And she was going on and on and on about this and crying and all this stuff. And I made the mistake of offering my perspective on that. Ooh boy, the coaches let me know that that is not the right thing to do. Your perspective doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It's all about what that person's perspective is. And here's some ways that you could have dug in deeper and asked for their perspective, because yours doesn't matter. So a lot of what we learn is technique. There aren't a lot of theories in coaching. We did learn some of the history. We did learn some different tools that you can use with people. So certain exercises you can run with them. The personality test, my school is very into the Enneagram personality test. I like it, but I don't coach people based on their Enneagram score. I just hope that their Enneagram score will give them some ideas about themselves, because it's an interesting model, to me much more interesting than Myers-Briggs. But we learned about that and how you can incorporate that into your coaching if you'd like. We talked a lot about, there was a lot of stuff, but it wasn't psychology. It wasn't therapy. It was really about making sure we're asking powerful questions, the right question at the right time for people to think of something they've never thought of before and hopefully find that clarity or aha. So I know that was a little vague. I did the school from last October to early April, and so I'm kind of forgetting what some of those days were about, and some of them were wild. They were 8-hour days. It was like, oh my God, help. But it was really good and helpful stuff, but really more than anything, the practice and having the coach right there saying, hey, here's what you got right and here's what you didn't get right. And even for me to have to, after the school, have to turn in 3 recordings, and we get scored on them, and they give us a list. Here's what you did well, here's what you didn't do well, and here's what you got a point for, here's what you lost a point for. So there's a lot of people reviewing your style and technique and approach. So, so for ICF coaching, there's definitely a very strong set of ethics, but we don't as much have theories, because it's really about the spontaneous, in the moment, coming up with a question that will take that person deeper into the topic and possibly into an area they haven't thought of before. And I have to come up with that question in the moment. Thank you. One of the best episodes. Oh, thank you. I'm happy you liked it. I hope to see you for possible coaching if you are curious, Kat. And again, if anybody comes to me for coaching and does the first session and doesn't like it and never comes back again, I will not think badly of you. I will not be mad at you. We are all still friends. Helicopters and everything. You know, if coaching isn't right for you or I'm not right for you, I don't take that personally. I've fired therapists. I'm in these reciprocal coaching practice sessions right now with other people who are at my level of schooling and practicing. And they're not very good. But we're committed to doing 6 sessions with each other, so I'm doing them. But they're not very strong coaches. The first one I did the reciprocal session with, his first 4 sessions with me, he pretty much ran the show. He was definitely a consultant. He kind of said, oh, here's what I think you're doing, and here's what I think you're feeling, and what about this, and did you try this? And I'm thinking, whoa, this is consulting and advising. This isn't ICF coaching at all. And the last 2 sessions, he stopped doing that. And I finally said something to him. I said, hey, I don't know where you are in your schooling, but you're being a lot less of a consultant all of a sudden. And I just want to let you know I'm noticing that. And he was like, oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, I got a lot of help from my school. And they even watched my 5th session with you. And they said I was still mentoring you too much. And I was like, room for improvement, but the 5th session was better than the first 4, so keep going, keep practicing. So you can tell, and I find the people who are very sweet and reached out to me in like October and November and started doing sessions with me, I struggle with a lot of guilt that I didn't give them a very good session because I had barely started school. And I really hope I'll hear from those people again. I might even reach out to them and say, hey, it's a very different world now that I have 75 hours of practice and a lot of feedback from the staff at the school. And it's different and it's better now. I'm evolving and improving like anybody who's putting in effort would. Any other questions, concerns, thoughts, comments? Again, coaching is fluffy. Coaching is scary, and especially where people don't have certifications. Like, for example, one of my best friends a few years ago decided he wanted to be a life coach. I think he might be an okay life coach. I haven't gone to him for a session. He decided not to do ICF. He went through some guy's courses that were very expensive. Well, my school was very expensive. He spent less than I did, but he spent thousands. And he went through some guy's courses. At the end, he gets nothing because the guy is not certified. He's not ICF. And, but, you know, my friend can call himself a life coach if he'd like. And he's been finding clients and helping people. He believes he is effective. He believes he's helping people. My friend might be a great life coach, even though he didn't do the ICF route. He did other stuff. So it's really about finding who's right for you and who has the style that's right for you. And we're all a little bit different. You know, none of us are going to be ICF by the book. You know, even my coach last night, who helped write the new version of the ICF Code of Ethics, I could tell that there were places where she was following ICF very closely, and there were places where she was being a little bit looser with it because she's gotten to know me, and she knows that she can say other things to me, and that as a coach, I'll take them well, and I won't make weird assumptions. Pumpalate said, hey, I just remembered I had a coaching session with a friend of mine who was also getting her coaching certificate, though I don't know if it was ICF. Important to know. We had 5 sessions. It was a bad time in my life. My work visa expired. I had to leave the country. I should have probably talked to a therapist instead. Anyway, I didn't like her attitude at all, even though she was my friend. She kept implying, not directly saying, that I should enjoy my home country instead of obsessing over that country I wanted. I forgot about it, erased from my mind. Ha ha ha. And that doesn't sound like coaching. Because once someone is giving you advice, telling you what to do, that's no longer ICF coaching. Someone might call it coaching, and I can't stop them from calling it coaching, but it would not match ICF ethics or standards. So once someone says, hey, why don't you be more grateful? Or why don't you just enjoy your home country? Your home country's lovely, good dancing, good food. That doesn't get to the bottom of your issue. Yes, there might have been things there that weren't right for coaching and would have been better for therapy, but depending upon what your issues were, it could have been okay for coaching, but that's where making sure you have a goal is important. If you come to me and you say, I want to feel less sad about having to move back home, I can try to coach around that, but we may or may not bump into stuff that's therapy. We could try it. You know, I could talk more about why is that sad for you? You know, we could try to coach around it, but you know, that you're right, some things are therapy. Good dancing, good food, this is gold. Yes, and my friend being your, my college friend being your ambassador and doing some dancing. So, yeah, and a good coach, again, would have boundaries and would say, you know what, you're coming to me telling me, I'm just going to make this up, you're coming to me telling me you're depressed and you're struggling and you're crying every day. I'm not sure this is something we can coach around. This really sounds like it's best for a therapist to really work with you from a mental health perspective. And so that's what that should have been. So whether that person is doing ICF coaching or another style, in my opinion, unless that person is clearly offering a service that is advice. If this person says, hey, talk to me about your stuff and I'll give you advice and ideas. Okay, in that case, advice and ideas are, why don't you enjoy your home country? But if you're going to someone for a coaching style, which is, the main term they used at our school was, you want your client to be self-generating. You want to ask your client questions that make them be introspective and reflect upon themselves and go deeper. You are not generating for them. So again, it's not my job to tell you what you're thinking or feeling or what you need or what you want or what you should or shouldn't do. Good coaching, and especially ICF coaching, is not going to look like that. So if you go to someone who claims to do ICF style coaching, or they claim to do a style of coaching that is not advising or consulting, and then they do advising or consulting I'd probably walk away from that, because to me, they've kind of broken their promise. Ana Lucia says, it's hard to stay away from therapy around that theme because it's clearly something relating to your emotions, loss of expectations, deep and complex thoughts and emotions about your home country. Your friend was not equipped to deal with it. But remember, I mentioned before that I had a coaching client who said she wasn't sure she still wanted to live in the city she was in, and she was considering other cities. Now, we had a great coaching session around that because we ended up exploring the, kind of, what are you looking for in a place to live? What's important to you? What are your needs? What are your values? So remember, we're taught in ICF style to coach the who. You come to us with a what, but we're supposed to coach the who. If I coach the what, that ends up being advice. If I say, oh, you have to leave this country and you're going to another country, let me give you some advice on what to do about that. I have to coach the who. And in coaching the who, that's mostly going to be thoughtful questions that hopefully invite you to explore thought angles and beliefs and thoughts and needs and things you hadn't thought about before. So that's kind of where that line is. So I think hypothetically, you could do some coaching about having to go back to your home country, but I can also definitely see where therapy would be a good match there. Thanks for everybody staying 10 minutes late. Again, if this is a session you liked and you want to share it with people, send them over to the Delta CX Hive YouTube channel. This will be archived on there as episode 274. I'll also be live here tomorrow at our normal Wednesday time of 7 p.m. Italy time for Ask Me Anything. If you'd like to ask a question ahead of time, you can send it. There's a link on dcx.to. You'll see a link for the Ask Me Anything sessions, and then we can put your question among the first. But for now, I will start playing our closing music, and I will start ending the show. Thanks to everybody who joined today or is watching the video later. I hope you'll share this video with other people, and I hope you'll consider coaching for anything that is appropriate for coaching. Thank you, and I will catch you all hopefully tomorrow. Have a great rest of your Tuesday. Bye.